let's talk about the Armenia-Diaspora Unity. Pierre, what is the Armenian diaspora?
Well, before we start, I thank you and thank Nubar and Bartan Nyan to have initiated this nation-building process. But before I answer you, I also, this being the first occasion, I want to convey to your audience my condolences to the families of all those heroes that we lost during the aggression, the Azeri and Turkish invasion of peaceful Artsakh, and my concerns and thoughts with all the people who have lifelong disabilities. So, what is our unity, or what is the diaspora? Diaspora is many diasporas. It's not, we cannot, most people see the diaspora as one unit, but we have so many different units. Montreal is a very vibrant community with schools that we have 1,500 day school classes, students. The same thing with, if you want, Argentina, or you have or Los Angeles, but you have so many different diasporas. And I think this initiative will give us a purpose to kind of see ourselves in ways that we haven't looked at before, to have unity of the diaspora to start with, because the diaspora is not united. Even our own communities are not united. First, we have to acknowledge there is differences. There is, in some cases, vast differences between us. But the unity of diaspora has very much to do with unity with Hierenic. We don't, we always often say Armenia, diaspora without Armenia is not viable. But I asked the same question: is Armenia viable without the diaspora? How viable is it when you have millions of people leaving the land, voting with their own feet, coming to the diaspora, and not helping Armenia flourish as it was happening during the Soviet days? We long for this, but unity of diaspora starts, I guess, with many issues that we can we can talk about later. But the first step is to recognize that there is a schism between the diaspora and Hierenic, Armenia, the diaspora amongst themselves. And once we recognize this, we can start building bridges. We should be building 1,000 bridges to connect the two together. And hopefully this initiative will initiate debate so that we can go that direction.
Okay, John, you have the privilege of watching us from a short distance, as I said before. Please.
Well, yeah, I would just like to say that I could not claim to be an expert mark on virtually anything. I've encountered a great deal. Hopefully I've learned a little bit, enough sometimes to make a contribution. But that being said, I've been in Armenia only, let's say, 10 times, and that only in the recent years. The very first time I encountered Armenia, one might say, was in Soviet days. The Soviet ambassador served me Armenian brandy, and I always looked forward to seeing where it was produced. The first time I went to Yerevan, however, I did so having to change flights in London. And I went to the Air Canada lounge to sit and wait, and was greeted by someone who spoke to me kindly in a very strong London accent, asked where I was going, and I said Armenia. And he said, I'm Armenian. He hadn't been born there. He had never been there. But my goodness, he certainly saw himself as Armenian, and that has stuck with me, and I am glad that in the 15 sets of thoughts, really, the matter of the diaspora and its relationship comes out very strongly. And I'm interested that Pierre mentioned schisms, or shall we say differences of view. I hope that during the course of the next few minutes we can talk about how those differences can sometimes be productive. It depends how they are handled. And if I can contribute anything, it will be some sense of having seen where differences can take us forward rather than forcibly keep us apart. So I'm very glad at the whole initiative and this opportunity to take part in it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. As Pierre mentioned, Armenian diaspora is very diverse. We have English-speaking, French-speaking, Russian-speaking diaspora. We have diasporas, Armenian diasporas, speaking different Armenian languages, Western Armenian or Eastern Armenian. But at the same time, there is something in the very core of all these diasporan organizations, starting with political parties, non-political organizations, educational groups, scientific groups, etc., etc. There is something in the core of them which makes them all Armenian and which makes them all sort of united. And I think that being diverse is not bad at all, because the more diverse we are, the better we are, and the better understanding we can have of ourselves. Am I right, Pierre?
I think I like my John's my compatriot Canadian's view. Yes, Canada is a great example of the diversity and how the mosaic really is so beautiful. We are blessed to be in this country where you have, it's not a melting pot, but it's a mosaic. And I would like to see Armenian nation as a mosaic of all these parts coming together. The challenge, though, is how do you do this? It's great to have these talks, but at the end, how are we going to do this? I've been to Armenia to launch the Armenian Jewelers Association the first time in 1997. And, you know, we've been invited to so many Armenia-Diaspora gatherings where it was just a show and tell. It was a window dressing, no concrete action. The Armenian government was never interested, in my view, to incorporate or harmonize or to integrate the diaspora. And the examples I can give are many, and I'm sure many of the listeners would know this. But as an example, if you have a minister of diaspora, shouldn't that minister of diaspora be from diaspora? Why did I mean, her, to all, you know, in all respect to Hranush, who was the first minister of diaspora, everything she did was from Armenia's perspective, not diaspora's perspective. Even the tagline was Ari home, Ari dun. You know, most of the Westerners, like you said, we speak different languages, and most of the diaspora and Armenians wouldn't understand what Ari dun means, including my own children who went to Armenian school. So those are the kind of things, the challenges, and I think hopefully we can get to a point where Armenia leadership realizes the importance of the diaspora. Our diaspora has much more talent, much more resources, much more money than the Armenians of Armenia. Combined 2/3 diaspora is much more powerful than the Armenians in diaspora. I don't want to demean what we have in Armenia, but in Soviet days, when John went first time to Armenia, we had all the scientists, we had all the great people we could be proud of. they were all result of the Soviet system. No matter how much we hated the communist regime, still it generated huge advantages for our nation. So I'm sorry if I digressed, but maybe you can ask the question again. I will be more precise in my answer.
I'm very happy with your thoughts anyway, but we have a question already. We have a couple of questions. One of them is, Mr. Akkelian is completely right that we don't have a unity either within the diasporas, within Armenia, or between diaspora and Armenia. What can unite us? How can we be united?
I think the purpose, if we have an aim and a purpose, this is a great uniting force. But who defines that purpose? Who accept initiatives like Future Armenia, which kind of puts the star, the North Star, where we can be all sailing towards. We don't have that star. We are all pulling from one side to another, and we don't have that guiding light for us to all unite, for common purpose. If you don't have common purpose, you don't have common strategy, you don't have common objectives to follow, and we will be drifting and eventually losing out, because we have an opportunity to unite. The technology of today is uniting us from all over the world today. I think that technology is a great advantage that we can use towards bringing unity. But we have to be honest with each other, because we're not honest. We keep telling, this diversity is helpful. It's not helpful. If Montreal, we commemorated the 24th April this year, one party on one side of the city, all the others in another part of the city. That's a very, very unpleasant view. We have to be honest that we do have divisions. We do have very much. Kachazuni, for example, 100 years ago said, our mission is over. Political parties should have no role in the diaspora. But 100 years later, we still have political parties who pretend they speak for the diaspora. I'm sorry, they don't speak for me. They speak maybe for a group of people, but how do you eliminate, or how do you take those challenges and change them so that we all have unity in purpose? I think it starts from home, our unity. We're not united in the diaspora. We're not united with our mothership, if you want. And hopefully this kind of discussions will give us purpose. And whether it's united becomes, if we had the best universities in the world in Armenia, if we were one of the top 10, if we were top 100, we're not even in the thousands. Armenian universities are in nowhere in sight in international categories.
I think two of them are, but never mind. I mean, within the 1,000.
Yeah, within the 1,000. Okay, thank you. We should be within the first 10 universities in the world. It should be at least one of them in Armenia. Yeah. Or maybe I'll take Montreal, McGill. We're in the 30th or 40th range. But why not have such universities in Armenia, so that Armenian students from my children could come for whether exchange programs or study purposes, come to Armenia, and that's a uniting force. But how do you establish those universities of high caliber if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have one of the aims of Future Armenia being education, being uppermost importance for us as a nation? Those are the kind of things that I think will help. We have the expertise in the diaspora, tremendous expertise that we should be tapping on. And like I said, if the diaspora minister is a diasporan, initially Vartan Oskanyan, somebody like him, he could have been a fantastic diaspora minister. Why don't we have people like that, within Armenia, kind of bridging the gap? Those are the kind of things. And how about having experts from diaspora serving in all kinds of departments in Armenia, where you have in government, deputy ministers, we have so many experts, or in the medical field, or in the in all the fields that you can imagine. We have top experts that are there, but nobody's tapping on their door. It's like, come in, we need you.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily mean that the experts should go to the government, because there are fields of activities which have to be just supported by the government, and then a business is always business. It doesn't need to be a part of the government.
I agree, and this is how our Armenian Jewelers Association was formed. When the idea was there in 1995, we all felt, as we are now as diasporans, we feel unable, impotent to help individually. But when we went to the Armenian government at the time, Mr. Nanagulian, Garnik Nanagulian was our ambassador, who became a minister. And when we gave him this idea that we want to create a global Armenian jewelry association, the Armenian government was very supportive. And we had the first meeting with Robert Kocharian when he was prime minister. It was a 20-minute scheduled meeting. It lasted over an hour because there was an interest. Armenians are in their DNA we're jewelers by DNA. So it was a very interesting conversation, and we had the support of the government. We don't need the government to do it. Yes, you're right, but the support would be tremendously important. Will play an important role.
Thank you, thank you. I feel that John has something to add to this conversation.
Oh, how nice of you to invite me in that way. No pressure. Well, I find it extremely encouraging that right away, not just the existence of a difference of perspective asserts itself, but thinking as to how one might draw on that. And I don't think differences are necessarily weakening realities, but there is something that maybe shouldn't be voiced now, but rather later. I've come across something called, for example, scenario building. I don't know if the title, the label is familiar, but I bumped into large corporations which sometimes want to be seen to be good corporate citizens, but don't really behave as such. But in the 80s, I had quite a bit to do with the end of apartheid in South Africa. And one of the key factors in that story, and it's a story yet to be told, is that both the ANC and the nationalists did meet. In fact, they met originally through a university, but they met to get their head around a discipline developed by Shell, the big oil company, called scenario building. And what that did was force them to try and set out what could happen in the future, what was the probability, good, bad, or indifferent. And boy, it certainly sharpened minds to the point where the negotiations, which had initially been ruled out of the question, gathered momentum and led, as you know, to a historic shift. But forcing people to see, if we don't, I think it was an American years and years ago, at the time of the revolution, who said, if we don't stand together, we'll hang separately. And that should be in people's minds. If you can't get and act together to make real progress, what consequences do you pay? So differences, real, an energy to see where they point and what can be done positively or negatively is essential. And I think that Armenians, whether at home or in the diaspora, will have to realize that their environment, their neighborhood is not a lovely, peaceful, tranquil place. It's one where you've got to use your wits and other skills to make progress. And only by talking to each other, staring the facts in the face, will you make progress. So I can detect a kind of frustration in Pierre's realization, and it may well be extremely accurate. But I think that
John, we can't hear you. Your voice has gone away. It might be some sort of a technical. No, we can't hear you. Anyway, let's wait until John's voice or this technical stuff comes back. In the meanwhile, Pierre, I received a short remark which says that the diaspora minister is actually from diaspora. The thing is, the government is changing, and we don't know whether the present minister will still be in that position in the next government. But
I disagree. There was a minister. Now they have a bureaucratic position who represents the ministry, but there is no full-fledged minister. And I think if I had my say, if the diasporans had a say, we would want to have a full-fledged ministry with enough powers to influence colleagues in the other ministries to acknowledge that the diaspora is important and solicit in each department to have diasporans working so that we have a full and complete integration of the two. I think this is so important, whether it's in the business field or government. So we do not have a minister. I'm sorry, whoever the comment came from, but yes, we acknowledge that the person is very competent, and why not making him a minister, a full-fledged minister that can sit around the cabinet and have those discussions instead of just reporting to the prime minister. It's wrong. The strategy of Pashinyan on this issue was very wrong, in my opinion, as a diaspora. John, I hope you're back because I need support here.
What are you prepared to do to earn the support? I am back, yes. Thank you very much, technology. What point did you make that I missed?
It's, I mean, at the moment, we have not a minister for diaspora, but a high commissioner for diaspora affairs. And Pierre says that it's not enough, that a full-fledged minister with, with power of doing things and resolving issues is a position that the diaspora is waiting for.
And also, just to add to that, John, excuse me, sorry to jump in. To add to that, to have MPs elected, many parliaments have MPs representing diaspora. We don't have that. We don't have. Our constitution does not allow that. And those are the kinds of things that.
That was my next question, but
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Speak first.
Well, far be it from me, a complete outsider, to jump in where angels fear to tread. I mentioned a moment ago the American Revolution. I don't remember the event. I am old, but not that old. But I do know that the Americans in their day said, no taxation without representation. Well, you could say I'm part of a diaspora. I moved to Canada 50 years ago from the UK. But I can't really deny my reality of being British as well as Canadian. Am I part of a diaspora? I suppose so. But I also believe in no representation without taxation. And I'm not paying taxes in the UK. I have no interest in doing so. I will complain when the government there does stupid things, but I don't see myself as having to be represented in a legislative kind of way. My view then is very different from that maybe held by many Armenians. I think you all have to work this out, and it may be that the arrangements are novel. They may be new. They may not be having, member of Parliament for Glendale who has to do what, Zoom meet in Yerevan or what? I think this whole issue has got to focus more really on how can, whether you are in Armenia or in Glendale or Montreal, ensure that you're contributing to achievement of all of these very interactive goals. You know, these 15 points that have been elaborated, if any one of them isn't really attended to, the rest suffer. But how you actually get there is, I guess, a difficult question, but one answered in part by the kind of dialogue you have initiated. So I can't say I have a theory or a magic plan taken out of a briefcase somewhere. That never worked in crises that I was involved in before, and it can't work at this juncture. I don't want to sound negative. I think you've got such a lot going for you, and many things can be attainable and achievable. And you could begin by realizing that, yes, collectively you've got wonderful strengths. How, though, to keep them working in a broad direction? And, you know, it was a Montreal poet, Pierre, who once spoke of Canada, and he said, Canada's future is not a dark prospect, but a broad horizon of possibilities. His name was Louis Dudek, and he sticks in my mind whenever I encounter this kind of crisis. So I don't know if I gave you that much support, but really keep talking, but talk pointedly about how all of these issues can be addressed. And I'll have something to say about that later.
Thank you. There is an issue, I believe, and which is quite important and quite a big issue. In Armenia, you can hear quite often that the locals would say, you know, you diasporans, you have your own countries. It's America, Canada, France, I don't know, Australia, or Jordan, or Lebanon, or anything. Why do you want to be a part of our future? We are in this country, we own this country, we suffer in this country. Have you suffered with us? I know that it's not quite easy to answer this question. On the other hand, this is a hurdle that we have to recognize, and we have to work on overcoming this hurdle between Armenians and diasporan Armenians. What do you think about that, Pierre?
Well, this goes back to the schism I discussed earlier. We do have a schism where we have different views on this subject, and I do agree with the principle John outlined before: no representation without taxation. But I can see the taxation in a way that if you are winning all these investments from overseas, if you are diasporans are contributing in a great way, whether it's by donations, whether it's by business, preferably businesses, this is a form of taxation for me. For me, if you have ideally, I would say we should have a business czar in Armenia as well, so that all these businessmen who want to come, they do say there is this Armenian Development Agency in the old days, and now the new version of that that will help investors. But in reality, this doesn't exist because there's too many departments, there are too many things happening. So yes, I would like to contribute in taxation as an Armenian. I would like to have a business in Armenia, but the hurdles are too overwhelming for most of us, and we walk away. We're not there. So you want taxation? Yes, I would love to come and contribute, but I don't have the bureaucracy is killing us. It's very inefficient. The bureaucracy in Armenia is from the old days, where it was all favor the person's uncle or the son-in-law or whoever it is. This is how the bureaucracy was built. In Canada, we have a relatively powerful bureaucracy. Governments come and go, but bureaucracy keeps the country functioning. Not ticking like a Swiss clock, but Swiss watch. But nevertheless, having worked with the Canadian government, we know our limitations, but still the bureaucracy is efficient in many ways, which is not in Armenia. So I would say and I disagree. You see, until now, Mark, if we have to be frank with this, until now we accepted what they said to us, the Armenians from Armenia: mind your own business, come, become a tourist, spend your money, have fun, go back home, leave us alone when it comes to our decision making. But with this war, that, not war, I shouldn't say war because it wasn't a war, it was an invasion. With this invasion, all that changed, to me anyways. That person who was saying mind your own business, whether it was Serge, whether it was Robert, whether it was Pashinyan, I have something to say. Yes, I mind my own business, but you're ruining my country. You're ruining my future. You're ruining our what we thought we had, a powerful, strong Armenia, because yes, we believed you, but we don't believe you anymore because we realize the results are really not true. It was a smoke and mirror, as our Indian friends, native Indians say. It was all a smoke and mirror. We're not strong. And you can say mind your own business in the old days. I don't think they should be saying that now, that Armenia diaspora is saying, we extend the hand to you, take it.
Thank you. Thank you. John?
Well, I mean, how could I dispute that? Yes, I think that governments in crises ought to be anxious to get help, which they know they need, and they ought to be sensible enough to always have a view that somewhere somebody might help. But it's very complicated, and I would think that the experience that the country went through last year ought to be really resonating, really getting people's minds revved up to see something different happen. But so whether that means kind of formalistic or rather a better approach is, I mean, I don't know. I personally was also surprised at what I learned during all of that. And I hope that Artsakh and places which have been dealt with so badly really by history can be in a way recoverable. But if you can't get your initial act together, all of you, then yes, there are problems. That would be the same if you had no diaspora at all. And I don't know that having a diaspora is going to be the guiding solution. I think it's more a matter of everyone ought to be looking hard at what lessons can and should be learned from that, I'll call it disastrous development. And it's not one that was totally unexpected, nor should anyone feel that the matter is now resolved it is in every essence, held off for a while. I don't want to be too negative, but I think if I were an Armenian, I'd want now to be looking at how do we safeguard and achieve a better future. You have to get together, and that 15-point document is a really big help. It's awful to witness how things went for you and to feel that they could happen again. But on the other hand, I'm a positive kind of thinker, person, and but I'm not an idiot, I don't think. So you will get there, and this is just a blip for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Pierre, I do completely understand your emotions, because there is this feeling of belonging. There is this feeling that was many governments throughout years and decades were trying to grow in all Armenians around the world, that this little piece of land belongs to us Armenians, and we Armenians actually belong to this little piece of land. Now, there is another thing that I would like to discuss briefly, because unfortunately we cannot discuss things in the lengths that we would like to. It is, if we see the situation, if we try to put a formula today, it would be probably that we're living with a strong diaspora and weak motherland. Obviously, we would like to have both strong diaspora and strong motherland. And there should be a movement in both directions to sort of find each other somewhere in the middle of the road. And you have said what part of the road should Armenia pass to form a diaspora minister, preferably someone from diaspora, so that this minister understands the problems and wishes of the diaspora itself. What is the part of the road that diaspora should pass?
When I was saying there's a gorge and we have to build bridges, you know, 1,000, maybe thousands of bridges. I realize maybe it's not the Grand Canyon type of gorge, but we have the differences. Those bridges, some of them should be highways, and all of them should be two-way bridges. So it's not a one-way, definitely two-way, but you need to start from somewhere. And I think symbolically, if you had a diaspora minister who was sitting there and saying, we need to get every Armenian a passport, every diaspora an Armenian passport, for example, just an example. You get the buy-in of the diasporans. You need to bring those people. It's not give a lip service that, yes, you're welcome, you know, we'll give passports, but in reality, make it a mission to give us this, to bring us in and say, you know, you come into Armenia, first day you're there, you're going to have a passport. You're going to walk out with a passport. Just things symbolic, so that at least that link, the bridge, one part of the highway is opened, and then you can expect the other side to work the highway, because you know, by being receptive, by acknowledging, by approving, you know, by realizing the mistakes of the past, by changing strategy, I think this is very much doable. From the diaspora, you know, we have tremendous effort. It's a two-way for sure. You have organizations like AGBU that has devoted all their energy, amazing energy, but it's a one-way traffic at the detriment of our communities that AGBU traditionally served, because all the money was directed towards Armenia. So it's not true that there is no other, the other side is not working. It's working. It's just that it's not working cohesively, maybe, or it's not working as efficiently as it should. But it starts from the government of Armenia being more open to including us in their plans, including us in their mission statements, and so on. It's a lip service. Every prime minister, every president gives you the lip service, but in reality, it's not there. I'm sorry to say, we can do so much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when I was asking the question, I saw a smile of understanding on John's face.
Well, something that occurs to me. You've just had an election. You have, I'm not going to say a new prime minister, but hopefully one who has learned from the past couple of years. And I'm going to step in really. Earlier in this conversation, Pierre mentioned the need to build a university. And I felt at the time like saying, even small out of the way universities can surprise you by an act of scholarship or an act of liberation in an intellectual sense, and don't too quickly write off what you've got. And it reminded me, in the 1980s, Finland had a terrible recession. We did also in Canada, but the Finns were really hard hit, and their prime minister got together a group of university heads and business leaders to really just hash out where could they go from here. And amazingly, somebody suggested a new line of business. That line of business, the Nokia telephone. Wasn't too many years later, Finland's economy was racing. Nokia was an incredible provider in that field. I remember seeing in South Africa a billboard at the airport, and it had a black South African with a pair of earphones and holding a cell phone, and the caption said, "Tribal headdress." And I thought, yeah, that's exactly how things can be shifted. And when it comes to universities, I hope that a number of you remember that Pashinyan was once asked to comment on his top 100 achievements. And interestingly, I can't remember what number one was, but I do remember number two was, as he said, he had engaged a university professor to act as a kind of guru. That professor may be known to many people listening, watching, is Daron Acemoglu, who is a professor at, yes, a world-leading university, MIT in Boston. And Daron is, I would say, a real expert on how and why states fail. But I don't know whether Pashinyan really sought out Daron's input. He should have done. But the fact remains that if the government of Armenia wants to begin to seriously cope with its problems, yes, it can talk to the diaspora, to its own university heads, to other university people. And all of that really is vital. And there is something here I want to just quickly remark, with your indulgence, address. I did move from crisis resolution or crisis interference into being the head of a university, or maybe I was also dealing with crisis intervention, but our university is in a neighborhood where there are many what we call indigenous people, Aboriginal people, and we began to hold classes for such students in their locality, because getting them to move into a city was not going to be easy. It worked, but on one occasion, a professor took her class to the provincial capital and its art gallery. The art gallery was hosting an exhibition of the works of the French sculptor Auguste Rodin. She asked every student to look at a piece of art, think about it, because they'd have to talk about it. She noticed one student looking angrily at a little angel, a bronze angel standing maybe 20 centimeters high. She asked him, "Why do you look so irritated?" He said, "Well, this angel can never fly. It's got 2 left wings." She checked all the way back to the foundry in Paris, where 100 years ago, this angel had been cast. The foundry management said, "Oh my God, you're right. We made a mistake. It's got 2 left wings." But that angel in 100 years must have been seen by, well, maybe 50 million people. No one had mentioned it having 2 left until an Aboriginal student of a small university saw it instantly. And I've always believed and felt that if we get into dialogue, you never know what's going to come out of it. It's purposive dialogue between stakeholders. And I hope that that really will be taken up, especially when big corporations now talk about ESG, environmental, social, governance impact. Well, it all turns down to not just avoiding catastrophe, but seeing what really great ideas someone else had and you didn't. And I think if Armenians apply themselves, they'll come up with what they need for their future, whether they live there or live in a different country, but one with strong and abiding ties. And it's all very well to say, well, it's up to them, but you know they'll always feel it, and something has got to go. So this is your moment. The aftermath of a catastrophe, long before, let's hope, another one emerges. So all I can say is good luck.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks a lot. There are several other questions from the audience, but I would like to focus on one of them because we don't have time to answer several questions. The question is, I am from Artsakh, and the most important for us is the education. What can the diaspora, PURC, suggest us, youth of Artsakh, in terms of education? Pierre, please.
I think John, being in the university circles, might be very well versed in this, but my answer to the question would be Yerman Zoryan, who's an ex-Montrealer. He created the AVC, the Armenian Virtual College, which is being used now by many diasporan schools all over the world. It's a fantastic tool. I would suggest they would go and check this out, Armenian Virtual College of the AGBU program. That's a fantastic learning opportunity. And I agree with John that, you know, there's so many things that could be done in the field of the education where we should be excelling, because that's a critical component of our future. But times have changed. So maybe instead of going to the villages, and the villages can come to with modern technology, and there's so much more synergy, so much more efficiency with this. And as long as they have access to internet, which I know many people are helping this happen, including friends from investments from overseas. Again, Mark, I was talking to recently with Garo Armen, who is hell-bent in getting those little villages, whether it's Artsakh, whether it's in Armenia proper, be equipped with all kinds of technological tools so that they can join the top universities. But to do that, you need to have top universities, which we don't have at the moment. We do have good universities, but I would say even the administrators of those universities would admit they can do better. But I defer to John the rest of this question, probably the answer.
Please don't defer to me ever.
John, we're Canadians. We have to stick together here,
Yeah. Mark, can I make a comment though?
Yes, please.
Yes. Look, my misspent youth consisted of many obligations, I understand, but I very much take to heart the question from the person in Artsakh. When Nelson Mandela was released from prison, he flew to Nigeria to meet with Commonwealth foreign ministers to see what could be done. And he asked of the Commonwealth one accomplishment. He asked that a study be undertaken to look at what, when apartheid was removed, what could the education system, universities, colleges, schools, what could it look like? How could it be improved? Well, I had the privilege of being asked to chair a panel from across the Commonwealth to develop a report. That report became the agenda for when the UN and the Mandela government finally met to see what could be done. Now, I make no great claims for my part, but there were on that panel people of vibrant but diverse backgrounds, some educators, some community activists, and nonetheless, it seemed to me then, and I hold to it today, perhaps the kind of thing which could be done right now to see what initiatives have been underway, what value has come from them, what more could be done, and elevate this to something of real significance, because it is, after all, the children you should be looking to make up for the mistakes of we, what shall I call us, senior citizens, elders, old fogies, I don't know. But I think that, yes, have something. I'm going to hold up the report that we did. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Something could be done. And my God, look at the characters you have in the diaspora and still inside the country who are, I'm sure, just anxious to make a real impact on how the children are going to be prepared to look after them all as they get even older. So I'm glad that in Artsakh they've got this sense to raise this question. And I think that if I were an Armenian, I would be thinking this is probably one of the best things that we could attend to. That and buying anti-drone technology and strengthening military reserve training, but the kids.
The key. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Just a couple of very short closing remarks. We have a short note from Jacob Sarkisian, who says, we used to have National Competitiveness Foundation of Armenia, NCFA, under the patronage of the President of Armenia, which was composed by experts from over the globe with Armenian roots. And unfortunately, the activities of the foundation were ceased during the political turbulences of the last years. And what did I take out of this meeting? Again, we must understand that strong diaspora is interested in having strong Armenia, and Armenia is interested in being strong and having a strong diaspora. We cannot reach these goals of being strong separately. We have to do that together. And to do that, we have to do several steps, including symbolic steps coming from Armenia, showing the signs that the Armenian part is ready to cooperate and the Armenian part is ready to stay with the strong diaspora. And also, thank you very much, John, for quoting a line of a Canadian poet. I didn't catch his name, but the line was fantastic, that the future is a broad horizon of possibilities. It really is. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.